What would it take for you to trade the heart and soul of your team? Is there a price? And if so, what is it?
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome to the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, the show where we talk nothing but the D-backs Monday through Friday. And thank you so much for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I am your host, Danon Biggs. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. We are talking about some interesting scenarios today. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to everybody who is tuning into the show for the first time. Like I said, we talk about the Diamondbacks all day, every day. Not all day. We talk about the Diamondbacks every day for 30 minutes a day, which during the season, it's hard to keep it to 30 minutes. During the off season, sometimes it can be hard to make it to 30 minutes. However, I think we have plenty to talk about today. We are going to be talking about a potential trade that has been proposed by not any team, but by a handful of people that I guess you probably saw the title on the thumbnail, that would trade Perdomo to the Cleveland Guardians, perhaps for Steven Kwan. We'll talk about that here in just a second. We're also going to talk a little bit about our starting rotation and kind of where they were in 2025 and what we have to do to complete that rotation for 2026 and some options that we have there. We're also going to close the show by hearing from you guys. You guys have a lot to say. You have a lot of thoughts and opinions. Some of them agree with me. Some of them disagree with me, which hurts my feelings tremendously, but I love hearing it anyway. So I'm just kidding. I like to hear you guys, your guys' thoughts, because a lot of times you guys change my mind. So how fun. Anyway, you guys, I usually have like a big string of notes on my computer here for each segment that we go through. And this first segment, I don't really have any notes because, well, let's just talk about it. So, according to Alex Kaufman, who writes for the Cleveland Guardians on SI, Sports Illustrated, they say why the Cleveland Guardians should trade for this former all-star shortstop. Now, already right out of the bat, I don't think Alex knows who Perdomo is. Now, Alex Kaufman, I know you're listening to this. Everybody listens to this podcast. Alex, I don't mean this personally, but it does sound like you don't know who Perdomo is, who this guy is. You're probably, it feels like you're just looking at statistics and are going, okay, we probably couldn't get an all-star shortstop, but maybe a former shortstop, former all-star. And we're talking about trading this Steven Kwan guy anyway. Maybe we could get somebody similar caliber for Steven Kwan. Now, Steven Kwan is a very talented outfielder. He is a left fielder in Cleveland who, as soon as he came up, I remember watching his games and his performance when he was a rookie, because very impressive numbers. His 2022 season, he had a 5.7 WAR, and he played just about the entire season. He had so many ads on the screen. This is annoying. Had 25 doubles. He had a batting average nearly 300, looking very good. Honestly, looks fairly similar to Perdomo of 2024 and before then. However, you look at his record since, and I mean, it's not like he's had a sharp decline. This last year, 3.7 WAR, still respectable. He had a career high home runs last year with 14. This year, high of 56 RBIs this season. 272 batting average, so not bad. On base percentage 330, so definitely a fine fine player. Nothing wrong with Steven Kwan for sure. But the article goes on and talks about how there's a good chance that they're not going to have him this offseason, that they'll likely be trading him, and that the Guardians are going to have a problem with their outfield. Sorry, they're going to have a problem with their infield. Sorry, they're talking about some of their infielders who are not going to be here, and they have some prospects but aren't quite ready yet. And very well written article, by the way, Alex. Very good. I wish I could write articles half as good as you. That being said, and you know your team very well, which is good. But it then goes on to say that the Arizona Diamondbacks have a nearly identical problem to the Guardians, who are needing a middle infielder, in that they are seemingly desperate in need of a left fielder. The Diamondbacks might lose Lourdes Gurriel to free agency this year. We won't, but he is going to be injured for a good portion of the year, so I will give you that. And then he's a free agent the year after. And besides, Corbin Carroll have been looking for offensive consistency in their outfield, which is true. The platoon of Alek Thomas and Jake McCarthy, while defensively special, leaves something to be desired at the plate. I completely agree. I think that Alek Thomas and Jake McCarthy are kind of on the hot seat right now. I think if we get a good enough deal, that if we're trying to trade for a starting pitcher, which we'll talk about later in the show today, throwing in Alek Thomas and or Jake McCarthy to sweeten the deal, that's a very good option. So we may be in need of an outfielder soon. Somebody like, I don't know, maybe Stephen Kwan, but let's see. Let's see what we got here. Enter Geraldo Perdomo, the 25-year-old rising star who's coming off a career-best 7.0 WAR season, which again, Stephen Kwan came off of a 3.7, so about half, where he slashed 290, which is better, 289, 389, which is better, 851, which is better. And then Alex right here in a tweet says, Guardians trade idea, Stephen Kwan for Geraldo Perdomo essentially would cost the same as Kwan, a bit more, is a switch hitter with plus power coming off of a 2020 season. Listen, Alex, and all the other Cleveland Guardians watching this right now, Geraldo Perdomo would be an amazing get for you guys. He would be phenomenal. But there's no way that we would take just a 1-for-1 trade with Stephen Kwan. Honestly, and this is like, if you're looking at the numbers, first of all, if you're just looking at the numbers, you know Perdomo's special. You got something really, really good there. A 7.0 WAR, a 290 batting average, 389 on base percentage, and then you're looking at 100 RBIs. You're looking at he had more home runs this season than he had all past seasons combined. So he's unlocked this new power hitting ability that he has. And so just based on looking at the numbers, this should kind of already be a clear deal, which Alex does say we probably would have to throw in some prospects to sweeten the deal, which you're absolutely right. You would, but if you ask me, I mean, here's your top prospects here. You kind of got to throw in all of them. Like, I wouldn't, like, if it was like, okay, we'll take Stephen Kwan, we'll take Travis Bazana, who I don't know who any of these guys are because I'm sorry, I don't know. Much like you probably don't know the Diamondbacks prospects very well. I don't know the Guardians prospects very well, but I'm like, okay, second baseman, an outfielder, shortstop. Yeah, we need all of these because we're getting rid of Perdomo, a catcher. Oh yeah, that'd sweeten the deal. Like, but even then, would you guys take that deal? Perdomo for Kwan and 3 of their other top prospects? Like, I don't know that I would, because Perdomo isn't just the numbers that you see on the stat sheet. He's the team captain. He's being bred for this role as the team captain. If he is the only reason why the Diamondbacks made such a push at the end of the season that they did, and it's not because, oh, well, his numbers were so good that he carried the team. No, his leadership was so good that it pushed the rest of the team to be better. So, like, I can't think of a good trade for Perdomo. Now, of course, am I like talking him up a little bit more than maybe I need to? Maybe. I'm biased, obviously, but I don't know. I would love to hear if any of you guys in the comments could give me a reasonable trade offer for Geraldo Perdomo, not just with the Guardians, but with anybody. I would love to hear it. And I mean, like, this is probably more than it needs to be, but I'm like, you have to be talking like double, like you're talking all-star level trade, 1-for-1 sort of thing. Like, you're looking at like a a Freeman, Betts, Otani, like one of those guys sort of deal. And obviously, is Perdomo in the same league with them? On one hand, you could say no. On the other hand, I mean, Perdomo's going to get MVP votes this year. I mean, that's putting him up there. He'll probably make top 5, which is putting him in the same league as those guys. So I don't know. I'm seeing more and more of these things talking about like, oh, well, we should try for Jordan Lawler. We should try for Geraldo Perdomo. And it's like, yeah, of course you should. But why? We're not going to just give them up. Like, you'd have to really give us a sweet deal more than just, well, you guys do need an outfielder, right? Well, here's an outfielder who's pretty good. Like, that's not even close to cutting it. But again, let me know your thoughts. I don't like that deal at all. I don't think I would like any deal for Perdomo. And if I did like it, it's probably a stupid deal for the other team because they'd be trading all their prospects and all their all-stars because that's, to me and to I think most people, that's what Perdomo's worth, even if it doesn't show up on the stat sheet. Anyway, you guys, I have to stop talking about this or else I'll get even more flustered. So we're going to take a little break so I can defluster myself. And then we're going to talk about our starting rotation, which is, a much calmer, a much nicer, much sweeter conversation to have. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. The NFL season is here and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Now, I kind of look at the Diamondback starting rotation, and the first thing that comes to mind is that was supposed to be we were supposed to dominate the pitching scene this year. And I think that's what people are most frustrated about. That's when people talk about the disappointment of the season. That's what I think they're talking about because our offense delivered. Our offense did pretty well. I mean, we had one of the best offenses in the league still. So pitching has to be where we were really, where we really disappointed. That all being said, our starting rotation to start the season, to start the year, let's look back. We had Gallen, who was going to start things out, Kelly, who was going to come in after him, then Nelson, Fott, and Burns. Those were not Nelson. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. It was Gallen. Wow, that's funny. Gallen, Kelly, Fott, or Rodriguez, Fott, and then Burns. That's right. I forget that Nelson wasn't even in the starting rotation to start the season. Montgomery was pining for a spot. I think it was probably between Montgomery, Rodriguez, and Fott and Nelson. The four of them were kind of seeing who would get those last two spots. Montgomery went on the injured list and was going to be out for the rest of the season in spring, and then Burns went down in June. But if you leave those two out, the Diamondbacks had a pretty healthy rotation. We ended up having 5 starters play at least 22 games this year, which makes us only one of 3 teams to do so. The other teams were the Cubs and the Angels. Now, the Cubs, the Angels, and Diamondbacks, it's kind of a wild spread. The Cubs made the postseason. Angels not even close. Diamondbacks close. So that doesn't really say much. That's kind of like when people say like, oh, well, the Diamondbacks had more people close a game out or more pitchers record a save this season than any other team in the league. And I don't know that that's really a good thing, but so I don't know that this is necessarily a good or a bad stat, but it is interesting to show that we did have a fairly consistent rotation. Rodriguez did go down for a little bit, missed a few starts. Kelly, we traded obviously at the trade deadline, but Gallen, Fott, and Nelson were very consistent. I should say they started, them and Rodriguez struggled a lot during the first half of the season, but then came around on the tail end of the season and actually performed very well. And so that's, I think, the Diamondbacks performed so poorly in the first half that in the second half we weren't able to pick ourselves up. That's kind of the arc that I see. I don't think that the Diamondbacks were a below average team all year. I think they were a very below average team for a big portion of the year, and then an above average team for the other parts of the year. It's just the above average wasn't enough to get us to the postseason and get us higher in the standings. But the other thing that's interesting is that the D-backs placed second in innings pitched per game start, which is a weird statistic. But basically, if you started a game, how many innings did you pitch? On average, we pitched 5.5 innings. So if you started the game, you on average pitched 5.5 innings, went into the sixth inning. And that is second only behind the Phillies, who are at 5.7. So we were actually, we went deep into games. Now, more so in the second half of the season than the first half, but we had also had 68 quality starts in the season, which was sixth, though not like incredibly impressive, but better than most. And so I think when healthy and when firing on all cylinders, even without Burns and Kelly, the Diamondbacks rotation did a pretty fair job. They did okay when they were on. Now, again, they were not on for most of this or for a good chunk of the season. So that's why we didn't make the playoffs. But had they been on, even with the bullpen that we had and with the dips and everything that we had, I think we probably would have fared pretty well. And we probably wouldn't have sold everybody at the trade deadline either. So I think this season would have turned out much, much different had the starting rotation just kind of been able to get out of that little slump, which is easier said than done, obviously. But anyway, we now looking forward to the next season, we have a few holes to fill. Specifically, we have 2 holes because we currently have Eduardo Rodriguez, Ryan Nelson, and Brandon Pfaadt as our starting pitchers. That's it. We need 2 more to really make a full rotation. So what are our options? Well, we can sign a free agent, we can trade for somebody, or we can call up somebody from our internal organization. Those are our 3 main options. And we will likely sign at least one free agent. And right now it's looking like it'll either be Merrill Kelly or Zach Gallen. Zach Gallen is less likely because he's younger. He's going to be looking for a much bigger deal, a longer term deal. And that's probably more than the Diamondbacks are willing to do right now, especially for Zach Gallen, who has been hit or miss like he was this season. Now, if he's all hit and he's all good to go, actually, that's not a very good analogy. Pitchers should be missed, huh? They shouldn't be hit. They should be missed. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting distracted. If it's a Monday, if Gallen is great and he performs very well, then he'll be a fantastic signing, whether he goes with us or anybody else. But Kelly is a bit on the safer side, and if Merrill is really great and we sign him to a 1-year deal, then we can sign him again if we want to. We can extend him. We can do whatever we want. If he's not great, then that's fine. We only have him for a year. It's not a huge, he's not nearly as expensive as Gallen would be. And then also there's the other option, and we could just sign any other starting pitcher. There's plenty of other starting pitchers that we could sign. So that's one option. I think the most likely thing there is that we sign Merrill Kelly. I think that's probably what's going to happen. So that will fill one role. The second role, we could trade for somebody. And I think if we do trade, I don't think we're going to trade for, I don't think we want to give up prospects. I don't think we want to give up a lot of our current roster. I could see us trading away like, McCarthy or Thomas or a few pitchers here or there, or maybe a few of our prospects, but not much. But I think if we are trading, we're probably trading for somebody who's average and hopefully consistent, but not necessarily a huge name or a big arm or anything like that. We're looking for our number 4, number 5 hole pitcher, and somebody who kind of filled the role of like Chris Matt or somebody who can get the job done but isn't necessarily going to break the bank, which I don't love that option. But I think if we did trade for anybody, that's what we would get. And then finally is we can look to our internal organization and find somebody there. And we do have quite a few options. We have Christian Mena, who is very talented and has done very well in AAA. He did come up and pitched in the majors for a little bit and did fairly well, though he did get injured. We have Cole Drake, who we acquired for Merrill Kelly, again, with the Rangers. He dominated in AA. Struggled when he first got called up to AAA, but by the time the season ended, he had found his footing and was seemingly doing much, much better. So I don't know that he would be a starter unless he really comes in and just dominates in spring training, which he could. He very well could and impresses a lot of people. We also have a few other people. We have Spencer Jesting. I don't know how to say your name. I'm very sorry. Which I know, Spencer, you're watching right now. He did amazing in AA as well. Got promoted very early on last season in June, but did struggle until late in season and did end on a fairly high note. So did pretty well in Reno. And then we also have Dylan Ray, who has a mid-90s fastball and does pretty well, fairly consistent, but does give up a lot of home runs. So still kind of trying to find that groove as well. So I think we have some pretty good options there. Christian Mena is probably our number one option as far as that goes. And then obviously when Burns comes back in after the All-Star break of 2026, he'll definitely get his spot back in the rotation. Will he be peak Corbin Burns at that point? He might, but I'm not going to count on it. Then if he is, then it's like, then it's just like nice, it's bonus. But I would count on him probably pitching the remainder of 2026. Kind of on the more careful side, probably less innings and lower pitch count, and probably not quite as dominant as he usually is, so that in 2027 he's able to start the season out and be his normal dominant self. So unfortunately, him as well as AJ Puck and Justin Martinez. Puck may not even be on the Diamondbacks at that point, but we're probably looking at 2027 for them, as well as Lourdes, assuming we sign him again, which I think we absolutely should, but we'll see what happens. So there's a lot of unknowns. 2026 is going to be kind of a weird year, and it's really going to be the test, I think, for if Kendrick and Hall and Hazen can put together a quality team with what they currently have and what they have to work with, because we also know they're not going to be matching the same payroll that they did this last year. So we're going to be paying less this year than we did last year. So, but I think it's absolutely doable and they can absolutely put it together. We've seen Hazen put together a scrappy team that was successful, and I think 2026 he could absolutely do it again. And then if things do work out and Gurriel Jr. comes back or a little bit earlier and is doing great, and maybe Locklear has a breakout season and we bring in, Paul Goldschmidt, like I mentioned in the last episode, and he does really well, and we make a playoff run and our, Fott and Nelson and Rodriguez are just killing it. Everything could happen right. Everything went wrong this year. So maybe next year everything will go right. The universe will balance itself out. So the Diamondbacks have just as much of a chance, I think, to be successful next year as they did last year. I'm mixing up my this year and last year. Next year's a lot. I apologize. I will try. I'm trying to do that. Hopefully 2026 Diamondbacks can I guess live up to the hype of the 2025 Diamondbacks. That would be absolutely incredible. And they're going into the season as underdogs, which is how they usually do very well. So that was the problem. 2025, they were high on the power rankings. Everybody was expecting a lot from them, and that was why they didn't do very well. This year, 2026, they're going to be doing they're not going to be ranking very high, and they're not going to be expected much of, and therefore they will do very good. Anyway, we're going to take a little break real quick, and then we're going to hear from you guys. You guys have a lot of fun comments that we're going to hear from, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. It can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. All right, let's go ahead and jump right in and get started. We had a good amount of comments this last week, so thank you very much. If you guys want to leave your thoughts and get on next week's segment or next time we do this, I don't know if it'll be in a week or in a few days. I don't know. It's the off season. Leave your comment in the YouTube video comment section because that is the easiest way to get a hold of us and let us know what you think. But we're going to start things out. J Law, who is a Braves fan, and we were talking about the Braves potentially trading for Lawler. He said, we have plenty of good starting pitching in our system if you give us Ketel Marte. Now, the Braves do have a lot of good pitching prospects in their system. And honestly, may have enough. I'll give you this, J-Law, which, by the way, J-Law has some pretty cool music. So, J-Law, if you're listening, good job on the music. Very good. I can see your guys' YouTube channels when you comment. So if you guys have videos, sometimes I watch them because I'm bored and I like to watch videos. Anyway, I think that if you were to be like, okay, I have a crystal ball and I can see that 3 out of 5 of these pitchers are going to do really well. So we're going to trade all 5 of them for Ketel Marte. I could see that being worth it. The problem is that pitching prospects don't always pan out. It feels like they pan out less often than offensive prospects. So and I know we're kind of joking around here, but that being said, somebody like Ketel Marte to trade for a handful of pitching prospects might be worth it, but the risk is way too high. That would be ridiculous. And for a team that's competing even a little bit, you would not want to do that. Do I think we could trade Marte this offseason? I do think we could if the deal was right and something were to work out, but I don't see that ever happening. That would be crazy. Anyway, Justin says, so Lovullo is a good puppet. We'll never go anywhere with him as a manager. He's a good guy, but an absolute horrible manager. So Justin and a lot of other people who agree with this, I see what you're saying when you say he's a good puppet, because he recently came out and said, and this was, we kind of already knew this, but talking about how a lot of the lineup decisions and rotation decisions, it's more of a front office team decision, less of a he makes those decisions. He runs the game, he runs the dugout, but he doesn't make the calls on who comes in, who goes out, kind of thing. And rather who's starting the game and who's pitching and all that kind of stuff. And he didn't say it, but it's likely that that also extends to like pinch hits and like, okay, if this situation happens, you have to do this and you have to do that. I imagine that's the case a lot of times. Does that make Lovullo a puppet? No, I don't think so. I think that's the way that the game is played now. I think that with a lot of managers and teams, that's the case. That seems to be the case, like with the Yankees right now, with Boone and a lot of the decisions that are being made that don't seem to really make a lot of sense. But like if you have it in a computer system and you look at it and you squint and you go, well, maybe that would work best. That seems like what they do, and it seems like that's what we do in a lot of cases. And I think that honestly, I think it does work out in a lot of ways, but I think that it also doesn't in a lot of ways. I think that's just the hand that Lovullo has been dealt. And I think if you pull him and put in anybody else, I don't know that you're getting any better. And I think the role of a manager now is to teach and coach and motivate your players. And I think Lovullo does that better than anybody else in the league. His relationship with the team is so incredible and it's so personal that and he coaches the guys. He teaches them. And they're young guys too. They need coaching, you know. He's not out there dealing with all these all-star veterans. He's dealing with these guys who are rookies and call-ups and people who are just getting started. And he's shown in the past that he's able to mold that kind of team into a successful team. And so in the position that the Diamondbacks are in right now, I think there's nobody better than Torey Lovullo. Now, if the Diamondbacks if the dynamic of the team changes and we turn into this team that like we're signing all-stars and seasoned veterans and all these people, and then maybe Lovullo isn't the right fit. And in which case I think Hazen will do the right thing and let him go and find somebody who is a better fit. Now, that being said, if this upcoming season we perform worse or even the same as we did in 2025, I think Lovullo is in the hot seat and will probably not be there in 2027, or he might not even finish 2026. So he's on the hot seat. And as he said, he should be. He needs to continue to play as if he could lose his job at any moment. So anyway, Justin, I don't disagree with you, but I also don't think he's a horrible manager. I think he's a great manager. I think that just the role that manager is these days is much different than what it used to be. Mike Madden, when talking about Goldschmidt, simply said old and washed up. Mike, I disagree. He is old. I agree with you there. I don't think he's washed up. Did you see the way he started this last year? I mean, he started 2025 on fire. He was incredible. He was very, very talented, very good. He did end the season a little bit slower, and I think he is showing some of his age. But Paul Goldschmidt, I mean, he's going to be a Hall of Famer, and not just because of his time on the Diamondbacks or even the Cardinals. I think he still has a lot ahead of him, and I think he probably will retire, in a handful of years, but I think as long as he can, I think he's still going to play. And I think at the very least, he's got another full year in him, and he might, maybe he will slow down and he has less to show on the field. But I think his leadership abilities off the field will prove to be very valuable, especially on a team like the Diamondbacks, where we're at right now with our younger players. So I think Goldschmidt would be a very great acquisition. Or signing, not acquisition. We're not trading for him. We're signing him. So I think we definitely go for them. But he is old. You're right. He's not the same player he was when he was on the Diamondbacks in 2017. So that's a fair assessment. I disagree with you, but it's a fair look. Love Y'all said, if we need to trade for starting pitching, which we did talk about this, this is an option, I'd rather send out 2 of McCarthy, Thomas, or Locklear. So 2 of them, and 1 of Burgos or Hoffman to a team with outfield needs, then send out Lawler for a team's single-A pitcher. Yeah, because we were talking about this with the Braves trading our top prospect for their top prospect. Our top prospect, however, is MLB ready. Their top prospect is still in single-A. So I agree with you there. Unless the Braves also throw in one of their young, reliable bullpen arms, then maybe at a point, but Lawler has shown flashes of good defense, which I think his defense is I think he's going to make up the defensive issues very quickly. I don't think that's going to be a problem next year. At the very least for most of next year. And as well as his hot hitting of September, just needs the reps to be more consistent. I absolutely agree. I think I think he needs to stay. And I think he's going to be an incredible player. He just needs time. And he's young. He's still figuring it out. And the thing is the thing that he's struggling in, we've seen young players struggle in always. Like, I mean, his pitch selection, that's like the first thing that young call-ups struggle with. And it happened a little bit longer than we would have liked, but he did get over it and he's still getting over it. So yeah, I think that if we did trade, I'm looking at McCarthy, Thomas, or Locklear. Hoffman, I would like to hold on to. But Burgos, I'd rather hold on to him as well. I think we could trade if we sign Goldschmidt and we had Goldschmidt and Smith and Tawa as our first baseman spot, then yeah, we could trade Locklear. Be like, oh yeah, big upcomer Locklear and Jake McCarthy, who who was almost rookie of the year. There you go, two guys. You got an outfielder, your first baseman. Give us some good arms or a good starting pitcher. I can see that working out pretty well. Ki talking about Bellinger said that's not a move, or so we're talking about like the wild idea that we could sign Cody Bellinger to the Diamondbacks to fill in our outfield. And Ki says there's not a move I'd like more this offseason than the Diamondbacks signing Bellinger, but I can't see ownership giving him 25-30 million when they have a lot of pitching holes. And I absolutely agree. I think that's exactly what it is. I would love to see that, but I'd love to see them fix the pitching even more. If they want to do both, I mean, Ken Kendrick can pull out his checkbook and we can start signing some big checks. That'd be awesome, but I don't expect that to see that happen either. And then Tony talking about Bellinger. I'm going to end on this one. Tony's being funny here, I'm going to assume. But he says, that's one crazy prediction even before the playoffs are over. This is talking about Bellinger, signing Bellinger. He says, you need to get a girlfriend or a new hobby. Well, Tony, my wife and 3 daughters would probably agree with you, not on the girlfriend part, but on the new hobby part. It's definitely has its ups and downs. And right now in the off season, got to think of fun things to say. So that was a fun little dynamic, or a fun little hypothetical, and it got some pretty good views. So anyway, speaking of very good views, you guys, you can follow us on X and Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Diamondbacks. We're on YouTube as well as every other place you get your podcasts. Thank you so much for tuning in and making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen of every day. If you want to see more of me, you can find more of my YouTube channels and projects, passion projects, on my website, slackshack.tv. For your second listen, find the all-night Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night until the World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on the national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thank you so much, everyone, and I will see you tomorrow.